pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we'd please remain standing, Pastor Basio would give our invocation.
Thank you, everyone. Hope you're having a wonderful, bright summer evening. I'd like to pray at this time. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to come together. I thank you for our leadership, our mayor, our council, for the wisdom you've given them, and Lord, the unity that allows them to help serve us. And we pray wisdom and blessing upon them. I thank you for our police and fire. We pray for them often, for their safety and, Lord, for their strength. Lord, that you would also bless their families. I thank you for our citizens and those who make this meeting possible. I ask you, Lord, to provide their every need and give them great joy in knowing that you love them dearly. And we thank you. In Christ's name, amen.
Pastor Basio, before we start our meeting, would you like to introduce the new pastors who have joined the chaplain corps here in the first 6 months of the year?
Yes. If I may, I'd like to call our new chaplains forward. If you gentlemen would join me. It is a great pleasure to work with some very fine folks. But as you know, our city is not small and it's not inactive, it's busy. And if you don't know, your chaplains are here at your request to provide encouragement, support, and care over the emotional, physical, and spiritual needs of our citizens. And we also support our public safety team in providing critical incident stress work for them and also for our citizens. I want to introduce to you our new chaplains who've just come on board this year. One of the chaplains you've already met because he's already begun serving, but 3 you haven't. So I'll begin with Pastor Tim Jones of the Road, Allen Park, Southfield Road Baptist Church, now Allen Park, the Road, or the Road in Allen Park. Pastor Chuck Markell of the Allen Park Christian Church. We want to welcome him. Next to him is Pastor James Craig, not to be confused with the police chief in Detroit. And he is the pastor of the Allen Park Church of the Nazarene. If I can get out of the way. This is Pastor Frank Varga from the Allen Park Hungarian Reformed Church, who's also joined us. And would you join me in welcoming them at this time? I'd just like to say it is an honor and a privilege to serve you. And so you have a Pentecostal pastor, Baptist, Christian Church, Nazarene, and Hungarian Reformed. You've got about every flavor that you'd want in denominational Christianity, along with 4 other pastors who serve with us regularly. We want you to know that we love you, we pray for our city, and we sure appreciate the leadership of our mayor and council. So thank you very much. At this time, I was going to ask if the police chief would take us to the police station. We want to meet the desk sergeant and just introduce them there. So if you would, please. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. The clerk take the roll, please.
All right. Councilman Templin.
Present.
Councilman Cisco.
Present.
Councilman DiGiulio.
Here.
Councilwoman Gabarecki.
Present.
Councilman Rourke.
Here.
Madam Pro Tem McLeod.
Here.
Treasurer Armstrong.
Present.
And Mayor Mategas.
Present.
We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. Would I have a motion to, for approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting, June 27th?
Motion.
Support, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem McLeod has moved. Councilman DiGiulio has supported. Are there any questions, changes, additions, or deletions? Hearing none, then I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Needed a motion for approval of the minutes for June 20th, 2017.
Motion.
Motion by Councilwoman Gavarecki, supported by Councilman Templin. Are there any questions, discussions, changes? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. We're at the organizational business of the city administrator. Give his reports, please.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, residents. And for the street improvement millage, the contractor GV Cement is nearly finished with Horger Avenue. They just have the intersection of Horger and Roger to still work on. They did install the new ADA ramps and associated sidewalks over in that area for that intersection already. And it looks like they should be finished in a couple weeks. They started the restoration as well. We drove by there today. It looked like it was going really well, and hopefully some happy residents on that. That was a really bad road over there. The Belfour Avenue Water Main Replacement Project is now installed, and the contractor, who is Bricko Excavating, they're finishing up the last of the water services, and they should have those done by the end of the week. I think they have one on E-Course Road that they have to do. They'll be doing that, I think, on Thursday or Friday to wrap that up. GV has already started to remove the old street bed between Champaign and Devonshire. And just today, they were working on the intersection of Devonshire and Belfour to put in a new storm sewer connector. They had some storm line coming around that connects along the roadway. And then there's a 30-inch that runs up Devonshire that they were working on. Had a pretty big hole in there. They were hoping to have it open this evening. I know that that's what they were trying to get for the fire department to get it back open. I haven't received any communication if that's the case just yet. I'm expecting a text message from Buccelli Group, Steve from Buccelli, and we'll get that information out on the Facebook page if it's not going to be open. But it should be opened this evening. They were hoping to get. They were working pretty hard at that point in time. Although when we were by there a little bit after lunch, they had a pretty good sized hole in the ground, so we'll see how that goes. The street section, they'll restart after July 4th, and they have various areas that they're going to be working on for the street sectioning program. Again, also the CDBG program, street improvement work will be starting after July 4th. They'll be working on the Ford Line Road in LeBlanc area, as well as once the Horger Avenue Road project is done, they'll be working on Roger Avenue from Horger to Southfield, trying to get that in some better shape as well. As I mentioned just last meeting, there's still senior Olympic registrations. That event is going to be held. Those are being accepted until June 30th, and those activities will be held July 31st through August 4th. And again, that is for residents over the age of 50, not our rule. That's the rule here. So I'm not saying anybody over 50. Again, I just read the facts here. Applications for the Sports Hall of Fame are being accepted in the Recreation Office until the end of this week. And I know they have a number of applicants already. So if you have somebody you want to nominate, please get that in by the end of the week. DDA's annual car show, classic car show, is tomorrow. I think from 5, the road will be closed from 3 to 9 or 2:30 to 9-ish. And but the event itself is from 5:30 till 9-ish as well. They're expecting about 250 cars, as well as an exhibit of the classic and modified bicycles. That's a really big area that's expanding for a lot of collectors and so forth. So it should be a lot of fun. I didn't check the weather. It's Allen Park. It's going to be sunny, and 80 tomorrow. So we're going to be fine. We're fine. Don't even bring an umbrella. No need. DTE Energy, the representative was in this afternoon, and she reports that the LED streetlight conversion project is now complete. They have replaced all the outdated streetlights south of Southfield Road and I-94 with those new LED lights. And we're working with her now to start getting pricing for next year to replace all the lights with LED that are north of Southfield Road. So that'll take care of the Kennedy sub, and then the area off of Allen Road. Those are the last remaining areas. And I think a little bit maybe up in the Ford land area, there's a few LEDs up there that need to be installed. And then, again, I just read I apologize for being bearer of bad news, but we mentioned that the Wayne County will be starting the resurfacing project on Pelham Road. That did start yesterday morning, and I know there's a lot of very happy drivers. I received numerous notifications from my friends that were very happy with us, and I had to explain to them, this is a Wayne County project. This is not an Allen Park project. This is not a Taylor project, this is a Wayne County project, and if you want to question their ability to plan with MDOT, I'd be happy to get a number for you and you can call them. They are now reporting that they'll tentatively be done, weather permitting, by October. I anticipate them being done a little bit quicker than that. I'm going to guess somewhere in the range of, as they told us, 40 days. But they're going to be also doing some restoration and so forth. So I think that's what's going to linger on for another, 20 days after that or 25 days after that. So plan for October and go from that point. I did notice, and I did send something over to our friend Anne Marie, I can't think what her last name, LaFlame, is she on Channel 7 in the morning? To let her know, because I that's what I watch in the morning. I know that she announces, if you're looking for an alternate route, take Pelham Road, and I sent it over to her and said, please don't send people down Pelham Road, it's not gonna work anymore. And I did notice that she was announcing that that is not the, an appropriate route anymore for the construction there. She's moving them on to Telegraph. So hopefully, those that are using that route will continue to stay on Telegraph and leave Pelham Road alone once the construction ends there. We'll see. And that's it.
We have a motion to accept and file the updates, reports, and documents.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Cisco, supported by Councilman Rourke. Any questions of the city administrator?
Just one question. With MDOT, any update on turning right on Roosevelt off of Southfield to defer any of that traffic?
We'll follow up on that, but
Okay.
the answer has been typically been no from them, but we will follow up with them.
Thanks.
Councilman Cisco.
Yeah, I have some questions for Mr. Cady, and this is kind of a follow-up of what we had talked about at the last meeting. And I think somebody had come to the podium and asked a question that didn't really get answered, and I was kind of piqued my curiosity a little bit as to what our options are.
Fire away.
All right, Mr. Cady, I gave you fair warning. Well, not really good warning, but fair warning earlier, so. Okay. As far as EM orders go and how long they last, which we really are a little muddy on, is there anything in those EM orders or through the state of Michigan that says we have to have a minimum fund balance?
Orders 21 and 33 or 34, I think, was established by Ms. Parker. And I believe we had those amended because she wanted us to have a 1.5 debt coverage with a 15 to 20% fund balance, I believe. We had that changed so that we could have the ability to put money into a reserve for capital equipment or debt retirement, as you remember. So those orders were revised, and I don't know what they say now in their entirety.
So as we talk about percentages and things like that, is there a number? Like
Well,
that-
Plant Moran, our auditors, recommend that typically a healthy city should have anywhere between 10 to 20% in reserve. But again, every city's different. A city like Allen Park, it probably should be a little bit higher because we haven't been maintaining our equipment and we do have a lot of debt.
10 to 20% of,
Whatever your annual budget is in reserve. But Allen Park is a little bit different. We have a lot of debt, we have a lot of capital needs. And we, as you know, we've been spending a lot of money, not only to improve the roads, but to upgrade the equipment here in the city. Not only to give our people the best equipment, but to make things safe. So I would see that number coming down as we get caught up. But probably that would be, I would say that 10 to 20% number would probably be a good range at the end of our 5-year budget period. Right now, I think it's probably prudent that we stay up where we are, which is somewhere between the 25 and 30% range.
so, but that number goes away at when these EM, or, I mean, we can look at the dates at the end of the RTAB and say it's a year from the RTAB or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think that the number, I don't think any of those orders go away, and I'd defer to Joe on that.
You think they're permanent?
I think after a year, I think it says in the Order 436, there's a paragraph that says something about a year. They either stay in place until council changes them, or they stay in place forever. But I think there is something that says in there that they have to be in place for at least a year unless you petition the state to change them.
And then we're petitioning who? The Treasury?
It would be Treasury.
And that's a person or a board of people?
I'm not sure. When we've done it before, we've just gone to the RTAB. That's the last time we did an order. They recommended it to the treasurer who signed off on it, and then we got approval. How they do it now that we're out of receivership, I'm not sure.
All right, so this kind of leads to the next question. So the sale of the property next door, both those sales fell through. How does that affect our balance, and how did we pay for the building that we bought on Southfield?
Well, we used the bond proceeds money, which was an acceptable expenditure. We had the $2.2 million left over from the 2010 bonds, and we used 1.6 to close on that building. We were counting on or hoping to use the money from the sale next door to add to the construction of the project, but it's really at this point more of an inconvenience. I mean, the property is going to sell. It's valuable property. We'll have to use fund balance until that is sold, and then we'll use the money that we get from the sale of that property to replace what we take out of fund balance.
All right, and so we're okay in that aspect then?
I would say unless something drastic happens and the state decides that that's a toxic dump and we can't sell it or something like that, we're in good shape.
And we are not under a time limit to sell this property next door, are we? I mean,
No,
because I think one of Joyce's orders were that we had to sell the property.
That's another one of the orders I think that got changed along with the selling it to Boji. So, yeah, for $1 million.
All right, and so, and at the last meeting, we talked about the 2009 bonds that that we can buy back in 2019.
May of 19.
And that's $9 million worth of bonds. So we talked about it at a work session that the Times Equity was going to pay off the rest of their balance to us of $4 million. Has that happened yet?
No, at first we were told it was going to be early June, and then I got an update that said it would be around the 22nd of June, and as of today, I have not heard anything on the sale. If they do close, that $4.5 million, I believe it is, that's outstanding would go into the reserve that we have for the Southfield lease properties for that purpose of bond retirement.
And that's the only thing it could be used for?
That's the only, well,
I'm
not going to say that, but it's the only thing it should be used for.
All right. But we as a council can say that money, at some point, when we get it, if we get it, we as a council can come together and say that money cannot be used for anything except for bonds.
Correct.
We could do that.
Yes, you can do it by resolution. However, I caution you that anything done by resolution can be undone by resolution. So, but yeah, that's, I think that's the council's intent, as we've spoken before, to take anything we get, not only our lease payments that we get from them every month, but any of the sales of their property or any payoff of the land contract, and we've been reserving that. I've been putting it into an investment account at Comerica.
So the $9 million that's going to basically mature for us in 2019, I can understand if we get $4 million or whatever and we pay it towards that. What is the plan in 2019? I know we're a couple years away to pay the majority of that off, past the $4 million, whether we get it or not.
Well, if we don't
Where
have
would the money come
if we
from?
don't have the $9 million, you know, and we may not, I mean, we may have like 6 or 7, whatever we have, that, you know, from the sale of the property, what we have stashed away already. The plan would be to go to the state and ask for permission to bond the difference between what we could pay off and what's left. Let's say that we have $7 million in reserve and we owe $9 million to call the bonds, then we would pay off the 7 and refinance $2 million at a really lower rate. I got to believe in 2 years the rates are going to be nowhere near the 7+% we're paying now on these bonds. So
And our bond rating?
that's the other thing we've got to work on. We're at a double B or triple B plus right now. We need to go up about another 3 or 4 categories to get to grade, investment grade. And hopefully we'll have that accomplished in 2018.
And when they upgrade, is that once a year, twice a year, or at their discretion of whenever they want to do it?
They don't have to upgrade, but typically they do a review once a year, and then they'll adjust their ratings based on, you know, the findings they come up with.
So we might have to wait 3 years to get to the point that you think we should need to
No,
be
I
at.
honestly think if we stay on the track we're on, and Standard & Poor's said this themselves, that they thought we would be at investment grade by June of 2018. So I think we'll be there.
Okay. I think that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just for clarification, on reserves, you mentioned that Plant Moran suggests 10 to 20%. We're currently at 25 to 30 because of circumstances, which is probably a good thing. But regardless, you'll never get to a 0%, correct? I mean, no city should ever be at 0%.
No, I mean, basically, your fund balance is your rainy day fund. If something, you know, happens and you have to have cash to do something, that's where you gotta go. Yeah, you never wanna be 0.
We both have worked in a community that we were below 0.
We've been in communities where 0 is, and below 0 have been options, but not good options.
Not fun times.
And does that have any kind of bearing on our bond ratings?
Obviously, anything you have as far as securities, they look at, you know, what you have invested, how you have things invested, your fund balance, what type of, how much debt you're carrying, the stress on your budget. You know, they look at those kind of factors. This, as you know, the city carries a lot of debt, and that's one of the negative factors that kind of held us down in this rating. I think we should have done better, honestly speaking. And the guy from Standard & Poor's that me and Mark were speaking to thought that we should have done better, but the review board was a little skittish just coming out of receivership. They wanted to see how we did on our own without the state around before they made that next jump for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just before I ask for the vote, just 2 comments that I have. I think I heard the councilman, in 19, the bonds become callable. If we do nothing, the bonds go on over another 10 or 15 years, and we pay them off as we have been. So we don't have to call them, but if we have the funds, or if we can refinance at a better rate than what are on those, and those bonds, I think, are running somewhere in the 7% range now, and we should be able to do much better. So it might make sense to refinance. But that's for 2019. The installment agreement that we have with Time Equities, which is paying those funds, I think there is a order of the emergency manager that requires us to apply those funds to the payment of the bonds used to acquire the 104-acre site here. So I think there is a restriction. We'd have to change the emergency manager order in order to use that for somewhere else, and it wouldn't make any sense to use it somewhere else because we'd have to come up with that money anyway. So just those 2 things. Any other questions of the city administrator? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Thank you. The consent agenda. Oh, public comments. The public comment period, I ask you to look at the rules of decorum on the back of the agenda and follow them. Thank you.
Name is Malcolm Beaton. Where emergency manager is concerned, let's get serious. The last thing in God's world that Governor Duke Snyder wants to hear is something about an emergency manager. The man he appointed to oversee that Flint deal has been charged by the Attorney General with murder over that man that died of Legionnaire's disease. Anybody today that hides behind the emergency manager rules and regulations is a coward. No city in this state is under emergency manager rule. The worst law ever perpetrated on the people of this state. Last week, I was up here talking about a promotion in the police department of one of our officers who was discriminated against to become sergeant. I'm understanding a couple of days after I spoke. Now he's going to be elevated to sergeant with back pay. Sounds good, doesn't it? You people can all smile. Wait a minute. The patrolmen's union was forced on the decision that was made in this council chamber to go before an arbitrator. So far, they have spent thousands of dollars. How much? And I'm pointing at you, Mr. Administrator, has the city spent?
Sure, they have not spent that kind of money yet.
Thank you.
They have not
You're
spent
on
that
your
money.
way. Two of those cases where sergeant was concerned of promotion or the sex assault on Officer Brown that she filed a lawsuit against, the commission could have settled both of those cases, not costing the taxpayers 5 cents. Now, how much is us senior citizens on a fixed income going to have to pay for the mistake that was made right in this council chamber? 3 people are responsible, and it's up to you, council people, to hold their feet to the fire. And I will remind anybody run for re-election next time about it. Matekas, City Administrator Kirby, or the police chief, one of you 3 were responsible for promoting the second man on that list, the sergeant, and forgot about the man that was number 1. Somebody said, oh, he has a lawsuit against him. Anybody that knows anything about law, you are innocent until proven guilty. The man has not had his day in court, but in Allen Park, through public opinion, Danny Mack is guilty. And wait till that defense lawyer gets a couple of these people on that stand downtown on some of those cases, and they ask them, what was your judgment of Officer Danny Mack? By not promoting him, you have found him guilty of something. Somebody must resign or be fired. I will be back until justice is served on that sergeant in the police department, and you people do what is right and quit hiding behind the emergency manager that went out with 5-cent pack of gum. Have a nice night.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Simmons, and I live on Keppen in Allen Park. And I was just curious if there was any update on the Nixle text alert things, because several meetings ago we were told that it was going to be started, and then somebody was on vacation and it couldn't get done.
It's in process. Apparently, there's a lot more startup work that included, that was necessary. So we're going to be heading close to the July 1 start date, but getting all the paperwork and getting all the training and everything under control has been a little bit part that they didn't tell us that was time consuming, so.
Okay. All right. Also, I was just curious, is the meeting being recorded?
Yes.
Okay, because that camera's missing, isn't it?
Yeah, the camera's broken. However, there are 2 others, but we are recording it. It's just, you're not on camera.
Well, that's all right with me. I just wanted to make sure that it was being recorded for the citizens.
But no, it's absolutely. It's going to be on
Okay.
both cable channels and YouTube.
Thank you. And I think I missed a meeting or 2 or something, but based on what I was hearing earlier tonight, it seems that we purchased the Oakwood area before our sales were final?
I mean, the
Yes?
sale of this property?
Yes.
Yes.
Was that the plan?
Well, it wasn't our plan. We had hoped we had closed on that, but it just didn't happen, you know. Excuse me here.
So I guess I'm a little concerned about that, but you guys don't seem to be concerned about it. So,
As the CFO just said earlier,
Yes.
we have sufficient money in the general fund. We still own the asset. We will sell the asset. Whether we get $2.5 million, we don't know that yet. But we have the money to complete the renovation of the property we acquired, and we will have at least, I think, a 10% balance, fund balance for the general fund. And we will have an obligation against the capital fund to pay back from the sales proceeds to the general fund.
well, hopefully the property will go up in value by that time. That would be nice. And then my last question is, on that resolution, the number 1 resolution, I have no clue what that is about. Mr. Kibbe, can you explain?
Yeah, the city went to bid for planning services, to have a city planner again, and this would be for services that they'd be providing in-house services to look at ordinances, planning, the master plan, how it interacts with the department itself and other departments. I'm trying to think of other duties of a city planner. But it would be bringing a planner on board with us that we haven't had for a number of years. It's probably been at least 10, 12 years since we've had a planner on staff,
Okay,
or under contract, I should say.
okay, thank you.
Dennis Hayes, Carter Street. I mentioned last time we were here my concern with the prayers that are offered here. I think there's many of us in this room who are people of faith, different faith communities, and I don't think any of us would not enjoy being a beneficiary of the prayers offered at this meeting. We offer prayers again tonight, police and fire, first responders, city officials. What about our road crews? What about the prayer offered in this chamber for this council ought to be for all people. They did mention the citizens tonight, which is good. And I understand they're the chaplain corps for police and fire. I don't know why they have one and nobody else does. This kind of hierarchical situation where cops and fire, and God bless them, they do a job, they get paid to do a job. They have dangers, they accept it when they take it. So do these other people. Matt Doring and his 5 people are out there swinging from trees, operating dangerous equipment. The water department's down in holes in the middle of the winter with freezing water that could sink on top of them and literally kill them, suffocate them. They have a dangerous job too. And I'd like to see this council resolve to say that any prayers offered in these chambers ought to be directed at the entirety of the community, its entire workforce, its entire citizenry. So I'd just like to say that. Secondly, I mentioned last time also, it seems to be a fact certain whether the EM orders are there in perpetuity or if they expire at some day, time, or date. As Mr. Sisko pointed out, and I think as others made mention, there's no reference in the orders themselves as to expiration. I don't think there's any reference in the law, the act, speaking to that. So we can either take the bull by the horns and just say, going forward, we're going to ignore all orders. Or if you want to, I don't appreciate this point of view. I think you should just, if you're going to go beg the state for an answer, I think that's the wrong thing because the answer is always going to be the wrong one. I think you ought to take the position that we've been out of receivership now for 12 months or whatever it is. Therefore, we are going to reject any further consideration there unless somebody directs us otherwise. You got to be tough. I mean, we saw what happened when you go and try to negotiate with the state, you lose. We ended up paying 50 grand to somebody who should have been fired and kicked out the door without a dime. But we negotiated a deal. That was a deal? That was a steal. She stole from us. So don't ask, do, act. You guys ought to make a resolution saying, we've determined that since we've been out of receivership for X period of time, we believe it's sufficient and we're moving on, period. Thank you.
Well, the name is Robert Turner from beautiful Northern Allen Park. Councilman Cisco, I want to thank you for the update on the fund balance. Our school district, which I'm on the school board, we've had some of the same thing, and we have money. Now everybody's wanting to grab it. So, you know, our board is saying, we're going to stay at a minimum of 20%. That's going to be our objective. 20% is going to be our minimum. And as long as I'm on the school board, I'm going to push at 20%. As long as I'm at this podium, the council shall be pushing 20%. I do have a question on number 5. The resolution to increase salaries. These are all non-union positions, correct? Okay. Do any of these positions get paid overtime?
Yeah, 3 of the positions are eligible for overtime. Those are your DPS supervisors.
Okay, so they are, okay, they consider a salary position, right? But it's still operating under union's terms, correct?
Correct. Yeah, they reference contracts.
Talking about fund balance, what are the cost effects they're going to have on the total cost? I assume it's for 1 year or is it multiple years? 1 year, 2.5% only?
That's a 1 year.
Oh, okay. Have you got idea what the cost is going to be? I mean, 50,000, 100,000, just at the ballpark?
I don't have that with me right now.
Okay. I appreciate your feedback on the resolution 1. Thank you.
Jennifer Kippy, Director of the Allen Park Downtown Development Authority. I wanted to thank those who came out for our tree planting on Saturday. We planted 19 trees downtown. So thank you, Mike Mizzy, who's been downtown for the last 2 weekends. He's Mr. Downtown right now. And Gail McLeod and Kevin Rourke and Noreen Armstrong. They got the job done in short order and the trees look great. And just another plug for car show tomorrow from 5:30 to 9 o'clock. So see you downtown.
Anyone else wish to come forward and comment at this time? I'm going to move back to our agenda then, the consent agenda. I'd ask for a motion for the purchasing actions and claims and accounts, payroll report, and then licenses and permits. A parade permit for the Downriver Runners to take place August 5th during the annual street fair run.
Motion, Mayor.
Motion by
Support, Mayor.
Councilman Rourke, supported by Councilman DiGiulio. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. They had to take some biopsies on my skin today, and it was bandaged, but obviously it's not doing real well. It's been rebandaged twice, but that's the reason I'm holding something here. We have resolutions, a motion to award a professional services of contract for Municipal Planning Services, city planner, to Carlisle Wortman with a monthly retainer of $4,000.
Motion.
Councilman Templin has moved. Councilman Cisco has supported. Is there discussion?
This question, I guess, for Mark would be, when we had the last discussion was around $2,100 was the original. And it's almost double. Is that for the other half-day or other services?
Yeah, so they added more services in there at the extra half-day. So now you have 2 half-days, 2 4-hour days, and it went up to 4,000.
Okay, now will they get into the codification of all the, or that's
No,
not
the
there?
codification actually is through Mike's office.
Okay.
But they'll be able to look at those ordinances and be able to, I used the one that we talked about, I think there, and we're working on. One recently was the fence ordinance where we had multiple locations. I think parking is the same way, where there's multiple areas of notification on that issue. That was where I used the word convoluted. I think that's the problem.
And we'll monitor this on a monthly basis to see,
Yeah, what I would expect them to do is the same thing you see from your other departments, say, report on a monthly basis.
okay.
Mayor,
Councilman DiGiulio?
this is 2 4-hour days, Mr. Kibbe?
Yeah, two.
That's per week?
Yeah, 2 4-hour days per week.
We pay him $4,000 for that?
Yeah, that would also include the planning commission meeting and ZBA as necessary as well.
Thank you.
So, yes.
Councilwoman,
No, thank you. I apologize, I didn't make the work session that this was discussed at. So they would be, let's see here. I guess you indicated they'd be on, sitting in on zoning and all the other positions as, committees as well. So I guess I'm just trying to, they're gonna be sitting in along with our current department head. And again, I apologize, I didn't get no minutes or meeting updates from the work session, so I apologize for not following up on that.
Yeah, I vision this to ultimately roll into that role, because eventually you're gonna have that department head is gonna retire. And this would be the succession plan of having somebody else operate that area, that department. It's common in other communities. We've seen it as well very successfully. And this would be the kind of phase 1 of that process.
So they work jointly to start with?
That's what I envision.
Is that what, everybody else, I didn't attend the work session, so again, I apologize. Is that what everybody else is?
Well, I think part of it, what he was saying is part of it's to complement Dave Boomer's area, the building department, where they may be checking on something else. These guys have additional expertise or contact throughout the state where other resources to help us with, and working with the attorney on variances that need attention, that they can help Dave's department with. If it's from a legal standpoint, if we need to add something, delete something, change something, they have some of that expertise to guide it. So they're an extra resource for us, is the way I'm understanding it, to complement what Dave's department does, what.
I'll either, kind of help if there's a deficiency or anything in that area, they would be able to help fill that void as well.
Oh, okay. So it's not like pushing anybody out the door or anything. That's what I want to just make sure at this point. They're working in conjunction together as assistants to help, as you, building department and whatever else needs to be done as far as our master plan and everything else. Because the building department's not just the only department in the master plan, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And I think that was one of the main reasons for a planner was there's nothing in the description of any of our departments, any of our appointees had that responsibility. I mean, we didn't have a master plan updated for a long time, but we've got one, and it was one of the recommendations there that a planner be looked at. And I think that would be one of the things that, as they look at things being done by different departments, and give you an example, right now the building department's International Building Code is different than the International Fire Code that the fire department. So whenever you're looking at a fire suppression system or a violation, there's actually 2 different codes. Somebody's got to be responsible for, I guess, voting the tiebreaker or something, which doesn't necessarily get to the city administrator's office right away, but
Just as long as it's complementing the city and other departments and the department head, I just want to
Yeah,
make sure.
one of the things I also mentioned here, and mentioned to the public as well, is Dave Skirtle was here. Dave, we're familiar with Dave from other communities, as well as the mayor's dealt with him at the DCC Brownfield Group. He's very well versed in economic development, which I think is one of the areas that we were kind of looking at as well as a potential growth area. Is we're going to need, obviously, we don't have the new land to go redevelop, to develop. We're going to be looking at redevelopment of those areas. And then the other part would be looking at the possibility of becoming a redevelopment-ready community. That is a big push by MEDC when it comes to the grant funding that they're willing to offer out to not only the communities, but some of the businesses within the community. It's not an easy task to become a redevelopment-ready community. I know Mr. Katie's familiar with that up in the city of Roseville, and it was an arduous task to do that. Dave was actually one of the involved in authoring the redevelopment-ready community wording and legislation. So I think that will help us a little bit as we want to take those steps and making sure that we're using best practices where we should be. And if we're not, how do we go about to implement those best practices and make us a better community that as we serve our residents?
Okay. Sounds like we're working jointly together with everybody and department heads and everything. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I feel pretty comfortable about that.
Okay, thank you. And again, I apologize.
any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. The next is a resolution to authorize the sale of our 6-inch sewer trash pump to the city of Lincoln Park for $11,000. I think Mr. Murray sent us a memorandum on that. Do I have the motion to put that before the council?
Motion.
Support.
Councilman O'Rourke has moved. Councilwoman Gavarecki has supported. Mr. Murray is before us. Any questions of Mr. Murray about this? Maybe for the audience and TV, you want to just explain why we're doing this?
Why we're doing this. About 7, 8 years ago, we were mandated by federal court to put in a new tunnel project. I'm sure you're all aware we bonded for it. These pumps that we have used to offset that back years ago before we were mandated to try to take care of that creek overflow and the sanitary overflow in that area. Well, since we've put this tunnel in, we've really ran out of need to have, we have 4 individual pumps like this size. Rarely do we use them. At the worst case scenario, we would use 2 of our 4 for bypass if you have power outages or anything on lift stations. Lincoln Park's been borrowing a pump from us continuously. So they have asked if we would sell them one of our pumps since we do not use all 4. And we looked up fair market value, and it's pretty hard to find one on these because they're decently old, but with no hours hardly. So we found some that are, 13,000, some are 8,000, depending on hours. So we came to a conclusion between Lincoln Park and ourselves, 11,000 sounded like a fair number. So they didn't have to purchase a brand new one. So that's pretty much why I'm putting it forth to offer to sell Lincoln Park one of ours that we do not use. It won't leave a short change. We still have 3. And 2 is the max we would need, so we still have a backup if one were to fail.
We test all our pumps
Yes.
periodically,
Yes,
right?
our mechanics garage takes care of our pumps all the time. We have them on tenders for the batteries.
And the cost of a new one would be?
$28,000.
$20,000?
$28,000.
$28,000?
I'm only selling the pump. I told them I will not sell any hoses. They can do all that stuff on their own.
This vehicle's 20 years old?
Approximately, yes. It's not a vehicle, it's just a pump on a little trailer, is literally what it
So
is.
it's not licensed, or is it?
No. Has a serial number. We insure it. This would come off our insurance, obviously, also for it just sitting in a garage most of the time.
Any other questions of Mr. Murray? Or-
Is that 11,000 cash or is it a payment plan?
Well, they best give us a check. They wanted to barter, I said no, so.
I'll make It's coming across.
It's coming back this way, yes. They have to have an RTAB pass it through, but I need you guys to authorize us. But their council's already said they're good with it. They just have to, we have to accept it, and then the RTAB.
They're out of RTIP.
They are? Well, you accept it, and I guess I can sell a pump. I was told a week ago that we had RTAB still for them, so.
Okay. If there are no other questions, I'll ask for the vote. Thank you, Mr. Murray. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
I got one more.
And, yeah, don't go away, this is a bigger deal. Resolution to be put before the council for the water department to purchase a 2017 sewer jetting gap VX truck at a cost of $331,085 with the trade-in from M-Tech Equipment Company with funds from account 592601987. And to bypass the city process, there's no economic advantage since we are using MITN and Oakland County as our bidding source. Is that correct, Mr. Clerk?
Yes.
So if I could have a motion for this item, please?
Motion.
Support, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem McLeod has moved, Councilman DiGiulio supported. Questions?
One, or go on, you're gonna ask?
You go ahead. You go.
Do we have the money? Is that part of 16, 17, or part of 17?
Yes, actually, it was put into our capital for 5 years, but Mr. Cady found a way with financing, because he did financing separately and put a fire truck in with it to get 2.46, I think, interest rate. We're gonna pay all of it off in 3 years with the same we had for 5 years.
Okay.
Mr. Case diligently looking
You want
at
to
the-
tell everybody what this machine
This
does?
machine does. It does a lot. It almost goes out every day with the water department, pretty close to it.
You don't want to see this in your neighborhood at emergency time, though. That's
No,
not
if
good.
you're flooding, well, if you see it and you're flooding, you know we're trying. This is the machine that jets basically the sewers, the sanitary side, moves the debris down. We're required by DEQ to do 1/6 of the city every year. You have to have one of these to do such, or you're gonna contract it out for a lot more than we're paying for this truck, I can tell you. And we have commercial areas where you have grease, debris, stuff like that, so that nobody gets clogged up with that. We shoot those every month also. It's an excavating machine also for when you can't use a backhoe operation. We use it for excavating and water main breaks in areas where you might have high fiber optics and things of that nature. It's a pretty much truck do all. It does a lot. It's worth the money when you see what other equipment costs.
Better have a coffee maker.
Any other questions?
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. We will, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Next item is a resolution to recommend to increase the city administrator's salary to $101,000 a year effective July 1st, 2017. Could I have that motion to be put before the council?
Motion, Mayor.
Councilman DiGiulio is moved.
Support.
Supported by Councilman Templin. Any discussion? We do have a human resource a memo as they investigated this, and who is chair there?
I'm the chair, and the other council members are Mr. Cisco and Mr. Templin. And I, first of all, want to tell these two gentlemen how much I appreciate working with them on this committee. We've been involved in a number of things related to HR, and it's thus far been a real pleasure. And very thorough in what we're doing and assessing. And the memo that was sent to council indicates that we took a number of factors into consideration, among them the fact that Mr. Kibbe's starting salary when hired under the RTAB was below competitive wages. There has been no increase since 2015, his date of hire, mainly because we were remiss in doing a performance review that was required by contract. We compared his current salary with comparable cities, and he's far below that which is being paid to those administrators in comparable cities, in addition to which he is performing HR director duties, which makes him even lower paid when you combine other cities who have both a city administrator and an HR manager. And he has also indicated that there's no need to hire a full-time person for that position, and we're looking for him to develop people within the organization. And based on that, and a rather lengthy, in-depth discussion, I'll let either one of the other gentlemen speak because they were very instrumental, particularly Mr. Cisco, in helping to develop this recommendation. We came to the conclusion that effective July 1, we would like to recommend $101,000.
Mr. Cisco, do you wish to comment?
All right, well, my name got mentioned, I guess I better talk, so. And thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for all the kind words. You know, I was part of, along with the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem at the time, Bob Keenan, of doing a search for a city administrator through the state. We were required to do a search through the state. And it was a really good experience because it opened my eyes to a lot of things that are happening around the country, not just here locally, but around the country, and what city administrators make and don't make. And I've said this for a long time as far as Allen Park goes. We are, and I know we're a very conservative town, and we don't like spending money, and I don't like spending too much money either, but I will say this. We've got to catch up to our surrounding communities. If we want to stay strong, we start at the top. We build a strong team at top, and everything else hopefully gets stronger as we go through this. And I think Mr. Kibbe deserves this raise. He kind of got low-ended a little bit in the initial phase, and I think it's time to make good on showing him that at least I appreciate him, and you know that him and I have had a few dust-ups here now and then, but that's the way it's supposed to work. At the end of the day, I could still shake his hand and still say he did a good job, and he is doing a good job. So there might be certain aspects that I might not like, but that's okay, because we're all individuals, right? We all have our faults, we all have our good points. So I just want to say this salary is well-deserved, and when we get to the end of this, I have something else to say, not like right now, but during my time. I don't want to talk anymore. But anyway, thank you. I don't know if Mr. Templet would like to say something or not.
Everything's been said. We'll keep it at that.
I would say one thing, you know, he also does the CDBG block grants, for which there is an administrative fee paid the city, and it amounts to 10% of the grant. And the grants have been running anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000, I think, since our 2011. And Mr. Kibbe's done that from about 2013.
Yeah.
And and he's still doing that. We used to have a block grant director who left, and he was hired at that time, and then he was brought on as assistant city administrator, and then our city administrator. But he's still doing the block grant. He's still doing human resources, which were positions that we had other people at one time. So I think the amount that we're paying him is a good bargain for the city. Hopefully he's not totally unhappy with it. He can still smile, so. If there are no other comments, I'd ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next is the resolution to increase the salaries of the following positions by 2%. Finance Director, Deputy Finance Director, Payroll Coordinator, Administrative Assistant, Police Chief, Fire Chief, Deputy Fire Chief, P&R Direct, Public Parks and Recreation Director, Community Development Director, Building Inspector, Ordinance Officer, Librarian, and 3 DBS Supervisors. May I have a motion?
I'll make that motion, and it's 2.5%, Mayor. You said 2%, but it's 2.5%.
Did I?
Yeah.
Support there from Mr. Cisco, Mayor.
Okay. I think 6 positions in there, though, we have no control over. They are by contract, union contracts, those positions And those would be the police chief, fire chief, deputy fire chief, and the 3 DPS
They're
supervisors,
tied to a
correct?
contract somewhere.
And the rest, we actually were in the budget when we approved that.
Correct.
But this is the recognition that the council has to have for that action. So with that, any discussion by council?
It's just a question, I mean,
Councilman O'Rourke.
you mentioned the HR team, and thank you for going and doing all this information. I just wish that we would have had a work session to talk a little bit more of these individuals. I know some of them are tied to contract, we've talked about that, but we're in contract negotiations with some of these other types of things, and I think that would have been part of my questioning, part of my discussion with it. At this time, looking at it, and we have the vote, I won't support it. It's no reflection on these individuals themselves, because they're all hardworking individuals and they all deserve increases. I just thought that there should have been some discussion, and I had some questions on some of that, and we didn't do that. But hopefully next time with some of the committees that we have, when we do have discussions, or they meet on the side, whether it's legal affairs, HR, whatever it is, that we can have, we've talked about work sessions. I think they're important to help clarify the air on some of this. So that's all I'll just say. Again, it's no reflection on the individuals per se, but the process that I had questions on.
Any other comments by council? Councilman?
I'm going to agree with Mr. Rourke on a number of points that I was kind of surprised when I saw this, not that it took me by total surprise, but basically I was told that the salaries, the increases were in the budget that we approved. But I don't remember talking about it during the budget process. So, but we have it here in front of us now, so it's not getting hid in the budget. It is seeing the light of day, and we are telling our community this is what we're doing. So I feel good about that aspect.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Just for clarification, as I recall, last year, this just went through, and there was nothing brought before, and I get the impression that with these type of standardized increases, it's just a normal process and progression. There isn't any decision-making other than perhaps a department head might indicate that there would be no increase for a certain individual because of certain circumstances. But other than that, you're not, unlike a private sector where you're working with a certain fund and you have discretionary increases. These are more of a standard annual increase based on whatever the contract is. So I don't think that any discussion occurs, and I think the department heads are the ones that say the yay or nay and if they're going to withhold. But I think that it is nice to know that people are being considered and given increases.
Any other questions or comments by council? Councilman DiGiulio.
I've looked over the names of these 15 or so people, and I see no reason not to want to give them a 2.5% raise. I mean, they're some of the hardest workers in the city here, like Mr. Cady, Deb Zettel, Matt Doring, for one. I mean, and there's one, Ken Simmerly. They deserve a 2.5% raise. There's no reason not to give it to them. Our city's doing much better.
Okay.
Should point out that was the same increase that the union contracts at as well.
If there are no other comments or questions, I'll call the question and ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
One nay.
And there is one nay, Mr. Rourke. The final resolution is to approve a liquor license transfer for SOF Inc., Crystal Park at 17099 Champaign. If I could have a motion to put that before the council.
Motion, Mayor.
Councilman DiGiulio is moved.
Support.
Supported by Councilwoman Gavarecki. And Mr. Rolls, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is president of SOF and all of its attendant subsidiaries, I believe. And this is a transaction between his parent company and his subsidiary. I did talk to your council this afternoon. Mr. Rolls, why don't you explain what you're doing for the council's?
Just kind of doing a reorganization. I have the Crystal Gardens in Southgate that I want to, the Allen Park location, which is the Crystal Park, be underneath that umbrella. So I want to move the license into that facility. And I have plans on redoing the location and aesthetically and maybe adding on to that location.
Okay. And am I right in talking to your attorney today? When you have a, what's the term? I have to get all the way to the back. Excuse me for a minute. But the Liquor Control Commission, when they give out these for banquet facilities, you get
A sub-license.
a sub-license.
Right.
And so he's just trying to get the sub-license back into his parent company.
Yeah.
Okay? It doesn't say what the license is there in the application. I think that was the confusion. we
Right,
had.
that was, yeah, it's called a sub-license.
And so that way he can handle some financing and other
Get financing for the location.
matters of running his business.
So it has nothing to do with, because then we have like so many licenses in Allen Park to share, give out, whatever the case is. If somebody turns one in and another
Yeah,
one
I-
becomes available, but
I
it's
own
under
both
your
licenses.
umbrella.
Yep, I own both licenses.
Okay.
So, and he's, as I understand it, you're still going to operate out of the facility that we call the
Crystal Park.
Crystal
yes.
Park.
Yeah,
And I
there's no
guess you're going to
changes.
use that same name. You just got to transfer that too.
Correct, for the financing. I just have to do it for financing to do what I plan on doing over there.
So there'll be no more liquor there, is that correct?
No, there will be liquor. I'm just trying to
I can
transfer
still
everything at
come?
the same time, so it hits the same date.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions of Mr. Rolls?
No.
Hearing none, thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Are there any other questions by council on this matter? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. We are at other business, so any comments by council? Can I please, Councilman Temple?
Can I jump in real quick, if I may, through the chair? Steve Wood from Buccelli Group has notified us that the intersection at Devonshire and Balfour will be closed for the evening. They did not get that work all completed, so we've let the fire department know. Chief Wokowicz let the desk know as well. And then we'll also post it on the Facebook page and get that word out if others can share that information from the Facebook page as well. Devonshire and Balfour intersection will be closed.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Templin had?
This is under other business instead of just comments, is that it was brought up by Councilman Rourke and Cisco about having work sessions. And we talked about it at a work session, I believe, that we're gonna have, that we would have a work session prior to council meeting. And I would like to make a proposal now to everybody that we have a plan on 5:30 from now on, to have a work session before every council meeting. I think that might clear up some of these issues that we have, and if we don't need it, I mean, Mr.
We're just
Kibbe
here
could put
early.
out, or we're here early and we can socialize or something, but, or Mr. Kibbe can cancel it and we can just all show up.
Right.
Through the chair, Mr. Mayor, I believe we have a motion by Councilman Templin to schedule work sessions on council meeting nights at 5:30 on an as-needed basis. And what we could do there is it'll be on there, and if we know we don't need it, I'll send out word ahead of time.
I don't know about that.
I'm in favor of that, but let's just, not as needed, let's just do
You
it.
just want to keep it?
And
Okay.
if there's one, there's one, and if there's not, then,
We're here early.
we're here
Everyone's here
early,
early.
and
Okay.
residents will know we're here, and.
And Mark will have sandwiches and beverages for us?
Good.
No, Crystal Park has said they'll supply the sandwiches.
That would actually work better, because when to change something, you have to go to the website, so.
I would rather.
The board, then email, so.
I
Mr.
think it
Templin
would
is
be better.
scheduling it at 5:30 before all council meetings?
Yes.
Are we talking regularly scheduled council meetings, not like ones that we, don't have and then schedule for the next week? Or just,
That would be a regularly scheduled council meeting, but it just
What would
got
be a
moved.
regularly irregular council meeting?
Shut up.
Receiving regular council meetings, how's that?
I could still see the need that we're gonna have, to have a 2-hour work session on off Tuesdays, but this would be for our council meetings.
Okay. Do I have a second to the motion?
Second.
Councilman Cisco, do I have other comments? See any from the council? I will speak against the motion because work sessions, normally when we declare them, we declare what the topics are. Now we're not declaring for anybody, so, I mean, we've had people complaining about the earliness of the 6 o'clock meetings, and when I say people, I'm talking residents, and now moving at 5:30 and holding work sessions where we have not made a statement as to what is to be topic there. And I just think that's
Agenda.
fraught with peril.
Well,
I will, the topic would be, just to, not to disagree with you, and I'm sorry if you're not done.
What?
I said, I'm sorry, I didn't want to disagree with you, but if you're not done, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, that's my
The
statement.
topic would be on agenda items only. As we've done in past when I was on council once before. It's any questions regarding council that's on the agenda. So the residents would have the agenda, they would know, and if there was anything that we had questions on, then that's what we're talking on. Nothing else would be discussed at that time other than what's on the agenda.
and residents will have a chance to ask questions during the work session if they show up about the agenda items. All in 30 minutes.
And
Right, provided we have time
I
left
guess
in the
I asked
30
the question,
minutes.
does our motion then say that it's limited to only agenda items on that regularly scheduled meeting?
Something so informal, in fact, I don't know if the Open Meeting Act really discusses work sessions per se. As long as you don't take a vote, you could talk about anything under the sun.
Well, I think part of it, go on, Mike, I'm sorry.
But I mean, and through the chair, it's not my turn to speak, but I was here when Kevin and Tina were on, councilwoman and councilmen were on before, and it worked like a charm. I mean, and citizens who had problems brought it up, before, and then I've seen things tweaked before they got to the council meeting, and guess what? Everyone's happy without a public brawl or anything like that. But again, they're not formal meetings, so you don't have to recognize them as, if 3 people show up, 3 people show up. So you don't have to cancel it. That's the whole idea of a work session.
I could just comment, I have had some contact with individuals I know who serve on other city councils. And in fact, most of them seem to have a meeting prior to the regularly scheduled council meeting, just to do that, go over. And because I know that many of us come in here early anyway, if we have the opportunity, and if we have questions, we ask beforehand of Mr. Cady or Mr. Kibbe or anyone else that might be able to give us an answer, just so we know coming in. And so basically what we're going to do is just kind of try and do that all together, so we're all hearing the same thing at the same time.
And through the chair, one of the concerns was, well, a citizen, I can't make it to the work session, so I can't ask my question there. But we wouldn't be changing the agenda in any way, so you'd still have public comments before the real meat and potatoes of the meeting. So if you couldn't make the work session, you still have that opportunity in 4 minutes, which you'll probably have 4 minutes, you'll get a lot more time at the meeting than the work session. That's almost an 18th of the meeting, but anyways. So just to put that to rest.
Well, I guess I'd have a question of the clerk on that then. So if the discussion is, and they finish the discussion and they say, that item we don't have enough information on and we want it withdrawn, so it gets withdrawn at the item, nobody knows the reason for its withdrawal because it was held, it's withdrawn, and it's no longer there.
Yeah.
Hey.
Well, no, at the meeting,
Yeah,
then
you
someone would
amend the
say.
agenda.
Amend the agenda to.
You could announce it why or why not. I mean, and no offense to the citizens, but you guys are the business, people who do the business, so you know that's the important thing, why it's, and I do believe in an educated public, don't get me wrong, but you'll know why it's pulled, and that's kind of what matters.
Okay, any other discussion by council? Going to ask for a vote on the motion. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That will be the mayor. Other comments by council persons?
I'll start. Are we on new business or other business?
Other business?
Okay, just for everybody to have a safe 4th of July weekend. And wanted to thank the Chamber of Commerce, had a nice golf outing last Friday. Even it rained a little bit, but you wouldn't have known it. It was a great time. And all the businesses that are there from Allen Park, take a look and support them. I mean, a lot of them are just smaller mom and pop shops still, whether it's an insurance company or a cake business, whatever the cake is, or a cake, the bakery, whatever the case is, funeral homes. I mean, you know, there's a lot of great businesses in Allen Park, and they support this community considerably. So I wanted to thank them and Jim Berry and his group for doing that. It was a fun day. And I won't be at the car show tomorrow. I got the Tiger game, but have fun, and it's always a great night as well. Thanks.
Oh, I will. Thank you.
Councilwoman
Mayor.
Garecki?
Thank you, Councilman Templin, for bringing that work session thing back up again, so I appreciate that. Thank you to the HR committee for your hard work on coming up. I know there was much discussion on all of the issue itself. And as far as the salaries for the others, I do appreciate this year was brought before us, where last year I think it wasn't, so I do appreciate that and letting the residents know. So come out to the car show tomorrow. And I'm also, if you have so much fun at that one, I'm also going to announce that our CERT team is having one in September, so I'm sure they'll be passing out flyers on Wednesday. So we're having that one at Lowe's, so on Saturday, September 2nd, so if you're available then. And had so much fun at the DDA one tomorrow night, then consider the the one up at Lowe's on September 2nd. So with that, have a safe and happy 4th. Hopefully, there won't be too many fireworks going off, but they are fast and furious around my neighborhood, so I don't think the police could keep up with all of the ones going off. So enjoy the 4th. It's great to be an American, and remember, be safe. Thanks.
I'm sorry I'm going to miss the car show this year, but I have a conflict. My grandson has a baseball game, so that takes precedence. And I can't participate in the Lowe's because my car isn't old enough yet.
Well, we can talk about that.
All right, perhaps. I just miss it by a few years. But again, reiterate, hoping that everyone has a very safe weekend holiday, hoping that we have decent weather. I know I'm going to Salute to America on Saturday with my grandchildren and some friends, and always looking forward to that. That's the kind of fireworks I like, nice and controlled and loud and big and booming and over there. But everyone take care of yourselves, take care of your neighbors, and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Any other councils?
If Mr. DiGiulio's not going to speak, I'll go.
Oh, no. I thought you spoke. No?
Earlier.
Councilman Cisco.
Is that a joke? I don't know. So if you could pass this down to Mr. Kibbe, I bought him a gift.
It's not ticking or anything like that. This is the Images of America for Allen Park.
Yes. And so let me try to explain this. So, you know, Mark Kibbe grew up in Melvindale, excuse me. And, you know, when he was little, he always looked across the border at Allen Park and wishing he was here. You know?
It wasn't when I was little either. It was when I was over in Melvindale.
And you know, we actually have a wall up around Allen Park, and Mr. Kibbe has come through the wall. And there's a Melvindale guy that's done well for himself, and he's doing well for our city at this point. And I also want to say this, the $101,000 salary, as I've talked to people, I believe that Mr. Kibbe's $101,000 salary is the first base salary in Allen Park that has gone over $100,000 as a base. So, and Mr. Kibbe remembers dates. I remember asking him, do you remember what date you were hired? And boom, boy, he told me like immediately. So there's a history book. He just made history. And I thought, you know, one day he's going to come to Allen Park and live happily ever after. And so that.
I'm trying to work on some condos, so we work on some
Probably
condos.
spend more time here than at home.
I do.
So I couldn't think I was just trying to think of something that would commemorate today for you. And now you have that book that you can keep with you. Please don't throw it away.
I'm going to have you sign it.
And I hope you understand my thought process behind this.
And Councilman, you're absolutely right. It's an honor to serve the mayor and council here, but it's even more of an honor to serve the residents of Allen Park. It's always been, when you're in other communities, you're always looking over, and you become very envious of the other communities. And in Melvindale, we were very envious of Allen Park. And you kind of have a list in your mind of places you want to be, and this was honestly always on. I think I told you that when I got hired the first day, it was always on there. And I'm very fortunate to work with a great group of department heads, and they work very well as a team. And I hope you notice that as well, and I hope the residents notice it as a team effort. And it's not a one-man show; it's a team effort. As working here with the council and the mayor, it's fully a team effort.
And I just want to add one thing, Mark. I'll be asking questions from that book at the next meeting.
I try to do some pictures. I try to post some pictures up on the Facebook page every so often. And I think we've done some old pictures of the Veterans Hospital. One of my favorite of all time is the big tire with Paul McCartney and his Wings, the band in front of it. I think that's one of the best pictures, but I may sneak a couple more in here and pop them on the Facebook page as well.
Who haven't I recognized from council who hasn't spoken yet? I think everyone has. I will just thank everyone for coming out tonight, and I too want to wish everybody, a happy 4th of July. And I'm reading a book right now that my children gave me for Father's Day called the First Constitutional Convention and First Year of the Government of the United States. And if we think our Congress and President fight today, those guys were really tough. It's a fascinating book, going into the letters of most of the people. The first Congress, I think, had 35 senators and 69 council people, something like that. Nobody could agree whether the government was advisory or had power over any of the states. I mean, they hadn't even solved that, even though they'd had a constitutional convention and everything else. So it was not an easy fight, and we ought to be glad that it came out the way it did. So with that, I'll ask for an adjournment.
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Cisco has moved. Councilman Rourke has seconded. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. We're adjourned 7:25.